Hi, Mr. Durham.
Hi, sorry to
Welcome.
be late.
No, that's fine. I understand sometimes there's some technical difficulties. We were just about to get started, so we just started the recording. I'm about to go over our hearing script, just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into the presentation of the applicant's case. This is the September 1st, 2021 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us is case number ZH20210109. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing, unless a party has submitted evidence or testimony in the form of writing digitally prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. The public will then have an opportunity to present after the applicant has presented its case. I'll give our zoning staff an opportunity to add any additional testimony if they would like after the public's had an opportunity to testify. And in the event any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. So for our purposes here today, between the applicants and owners that are here, and the gentlemen that are here representing March 1st and the architecture firm, I'll allow you each to present, or one of you, however you all want to present the applicant's case, is completely up to you. I will then give Mr. Durham an opportunity to provide any testimony. And finally, give our zoning staff after that an opportunity, and then finally go back to the applicant owner for them to rebut anything that was said or respond to anything that was said and make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony. This is generally testimony you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who is not present at the hearing. In the event of any technical difficulties or any unforeseen circumstances with our video conferencing technology, we'll do our best to troubleshoot those on the fly, as you guys have already sort of seen. But to the extent there's some fatal defect that we cannot fix or that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with the hearing, I may continue or postpone this hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing is to swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, doing anything other than just strictly observing, then you need to be sworn in. So I'm going to do that now collectively with everyone. So if that is you, if you could take yourself off mute and raise your right hand. I need everybody to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, great. You're all sworn. All right. So who's going to be taking the lead here on the presentation of the applicant's case?
That'll be me, Peter Stuhlreier, architect.
Okay. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to present the case for 5 points of zoning relief at the property known as 1624 Clayton Avenue, East Walnut Hills. A brief description of the property is that it is about 9,000 square feet of lawn with a very large tree, fully fenced in, currently vacant, but maintained. On the property also is a brick warehouse, which is not part of this relief. It's standalone and not even part of the project itself. This property is immediately adjacent to the Woodburn Brewery and is slated or at least requested to be used as an outdoor event space, beer garden, dining area added to the brewery itself. So like I said before, this is it's a pretty piece of land. It slopes slightly to the south, lending itself perfectly to the witnessing of some live entertainment underneath the very large tree. We believe there's a walnut. We're proposing 3 small structures. Each structure would be used, one for the service bar, where people would approach to purchase the food or the draft beer. The second one would be for customers on a normal basis, using it for shelter, also as a small event space that could be reserved for a party of 4 or 5 or 6 as a special event for themselves. And then the final one would be a stage fully enclosed on 5 of the 6 sides and facing out into the upslope of the hill, or northwest to be exact, into the seating and the bar areas. The property is proposed with buffers on the south and southeast, comprised of wide trees. I believe they're Norwegian pine and, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but not yet, Fat Albert arborvitaes. That'll create a visual screen with a small berm and some sound attenuation. It's heavily landscaped property. The majority of the walking area is crushed limestone, and the remainder is cut grass. There'll be some lighting for safety, but not for, not for very many foot candles, just for enough to walk around safely when the sun is down. A little bit of room for additional seating, picnic tables, Adirondack chairs, and some recreational games such as bags would also be available for the users of the beer garden. So that's kind of a 30,000 foot view of the design and the proposal. In order to achieve this, we would be required to have 5 points of zoning relief that have to do with outdoor dining within 100 feet of the residential boundary line, in which we are. The next one is the size of the outdoor dining is larger than the allowable size by right for a restaurant. So we'd be required to have an increase in the size of outdoor dining. The next one is live entertainment. Outdoor live entertainment is requires a conditional use within 500 feet of a residential line. Fourthly, off-street parking would need a variance as well. There are 30 spaces that could conceivably be occupied by the use of this space. So we were asking for a waiver of that 30 spaces. And lastly, the locational variances of structure B and C on the south, which are conceivably in the front yard, quote unquote, of the brick building, and therefore are accessory structures that are that occupy a front yard as opposed to a side or rear yard. So with that, I've read the report. My staff has gone over the report, as well as ownership, and we think it's been pretty positively received by administration, and we're here to talk more about it and answer questions as they come up.
Okay, great. And in terms of the staff report, have you read the proposed conditions of the staff report, in particular for recommendation number 3?
Yeah, we understand and can comply with those recommendations. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, you taking over here?
No, I just shared that so they could all read number 3.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, that's all. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. Appreciate it.
I saw some of them looking around, so I thought I'd put it up there. So
Sure, yeah. So under recommendation there, folks, number 3, the A through D are suggested conditions of approval from the zoning staff if I were to approve this. Okay. So I think we can, anything else you want to say about that, Peter, before we move on?
Well, I think that the comments that I would have coincide with the letter and recommendations from the neighborhood. So I don't want to get out in front of that, so I'll wait for Mr. Durham.
Okay, sounds good. And Mr. Stolreier and Mr. Pizzola, anything you wanted to add to the applicant's presentation that was not covered by Peter? Okay, you guys will you have a chance to say anything more if you'd like to in the bottle. So Mr. Durham, let's go to you first. We do have your letter, it's in the record, and the applicants have had a chance to review that. And so what would you like to tell us?
I think basically the letter set out all of our concerns. So I don't think I have anything to add to what was contained in the letter.
Okay, great. Thank you for being here. Please stay with us. I might ask you to respond to anything they have to say. Walt?
Yeah. So, yeah, basically the report's rather in depth. We spent quite a bit of time on this working with the applicant. We did read through the letters from the East Walnut Hills Assembly and feel like we've incorporated most of what their requests are and our recommendations at the bottom. That's where those basically came from. Would like to just state one thing that that area actually requires 60 parking spaces. The zoning administrator has decided to grant a 50% waiver. That's why the number's only 30. Based on recommendations from the community council's development arm, they are recommending that we should approve that. They're supporting the exemption of those 30 parking spaces. Other than that, I think the report is pretty well represented by our department.
Okay. Thanks, Walt. So, Walt, when you say that it includes some of the concerns of the East Walnut Hills Association, does that include relocating the gate to the Mormon side of the property?
No, we did address that in our report, the gate. We feel that that's already located where it is, and moving it around to the other side may actually cause some issues with traffic flow as far as getting in and out based on that side street there. This is probably a more appropriate location. We do feel that the landscaping that was proposed, the way that they wrap it around, and it's on, if you look at figure 6, you can see where the gate is. It's close to the recommendations. If you just scroll up a little bit, figure 6, you can see where they've actually hooked the landscaping island around where that gate is. And then they've created the landscaping and additional trees behind the stage and all the way to the corner that were requested by the community council there. So staff firmly believes that you're going to have to actually angle yourself in to actually get a look at the stage and just the side of the stage even, because the landscaping is going to be extremely containing as far as keeping that area from where the gate is.
Got it. Okay. And is the walls including sound abating insulation? Is that also addressed anywhere in the staff report?
No, we feel that the amount of evergreens and trees that they're putting there, and because it is open on one side, the sound is essentially going to echo back into the commercial district as opposed to leaving the site towards the residential. That's just our opinion.
Okay. And I think the last thing I noticed here was the request that the berm continue to the full length of the buffer hedge in the letter. Is that?
Yeah, I believe that Mr. Peter, I guess, mentioned that they're going to consider doing something very similar to that as they move around in that area. They didn't specifically call it out, but on their drawings, it looks like it is continued around. We didn't feel a need to add that in as part of the requirements.
Okay. Thanks, Walt. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Lee, I assume you're deferring to Walt here, or did you want to add some testimony?
No, I think let's summarize everything clearly.
Okay. Peter, any response to any of the testimony or to the letter specifically from the East Walnut Hills Association?
No, I mean, I think that we covered the bases, and I want Mr. Durham to understand we are listening. And we did change the landscaping and ran it the southeast entire edge. Our landscape architect, Mr. Pizzola, changed the specification as the trees went underneath the walnut tree to make sure that they were survivable on the berm and in the shade a little bit. So we do want to make sure that that's taking place. I don't have a big problem with sound attenuation behind the stage or on the sides. I think that probably is going to be double layer of plywood with a hollow space in between on all three of those sides to start with. And obviously we don't want anything that could be they could degrade in the moisture. So you know, it's something that you know, the 75 decibels at the property line are gonna cover. Whether or not that's something that takes place, we need to take care of in the future. And in regarding the gate, if it was a deal breaker, we could move the maintenance entrance up to the northwest corner, and lock the gate. You know, and that way we could run the berm across the face of the gate. But I do believe with this additional landscaping, we are going to have additional time on the maintenance side of things during the off hours. So we do need to get crews in and out.
Okay. Mr. Pizzola, can I ask you a couple of questions about the landscaping? Norwegian pine and arborvitaes. Are those the two trees or hedges that are going?
Excuse me. They're actually on the perimeter. Actually called Norway spruce. Those would be on the perimeter. Those are the actual a little bit taller than the Austrian pine. Or I'm sorry, the arborvitaes. Arborvitaes will be under the tree, and those a little bit more dense and rounded. Do be a little more survivable under those conditions. But both will create a solid barrier instantly, 6 to 8 foot barrier instantly, and we can specify larger plants as well.
Okay. For my own edification, I mean, that type of landscaping can block out a lot of the sound, a lot of the decibels.
Yes, yes. Evergreens with both of them are evergreen, evergreen trees, and with that you have just the density of the foliage. It's extremely obvious when you step out from a hedge similar to what we're putting into to an area without a hedge, and it's much more noticeable. The foliage will help muffle the sound, will help to deflect the sound much better than like a fence, where a fence would just simply just make it extend upwards. This will help muffle the sound with the foliage. That's why we went with a more natural barrier right there. And as well, it being mounded up will also help with the screening.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, Mr. Durham, any questions or comments based on my questions or testimony from any of the applicants?
No, and I thought the revised plans on the landscaping addressed a lot of our concerns. So appreciate that.
Great, appreciate you being here. Okay, Peter, anything in closing or otherwise before we adjourn? Any final words?
I don't think so. I mean, this is a really interesting project. Very neat. It's a fantastic amenity for a neighborhood like this, and it just it's quite a nice coincidence that it sits the way it does, that its grades are the way it is, and that the trees are like they are already. So it's exciting. That's all I can say. Is it's a very exciting prospect.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you all again for your time and your testimony here today. I think we'll leave it at that. I'm gonna take this under advisement, review it, do a site review, and have a decision out to you guys within 2 weeks. As soon as I finish those decisions, I will put them into a PDF and I'll email them to everyone that's in the hearing today. So you guys will have an email from me really just moments after the decision is complete. If you have any questions in the meantime or would like an update on the status of that decision, feel free to reach out to myself or Cassandra Manus, and we will address those as quickly as possible. I think that's it. Any other questions right now from anyone? Okay, great. Thanks again, guys. Hope you all have a wonderful day. We are adjourned.